Name a bigger red flag than a white guy with a podcast. I'll wait.
I am not impressed. I will have you know, I'm like 80% white. The podcast is goddamn good, and I don't want you anyway. You got random Iroquois art and not art on your walls. You're not my type, sir. Or madam. I don't know, you're allowed to say any more?
Boom, what's up fam? Got some big news to share that unfortunately is not so good, so I'm gonna jump right into it. You're gonna watch this video and you're gonna cry. At least we can laugh at your eyes as you cry looking in the corner like a little girl in the fetal position.
'79T 2458 Learning Corp, Little Red Riding Hood, take one.
Two, one, let's make it go. Welcome. It is. What the heck is that? Did you guys see that? The thumbnail. Yes. Well, Clary's being Clary. I saw Aaron was on there and he decided to ask AI Grok to draw me as a Muppet. And I thought, it's not bad. Waka, waka, waka. No, I was not going to put a hand puppet. Is there like a meme behind this, by the way? I feel like, I don't know. It's one of the few times in my life I felt like getting older. I was at, everybody's joking, I was at the Eyes Wide Shut party last night. It was a big Christmas soiree, some big banker stuff, whatever. So I kind of missed it. But apparently there's something to do with like Muppets and the Sphere. I couldn't even tell you. But let me know in the chat. I'm curious to see where that one's going. I mean, and if it's entertaining enough, we'll talk about it. And if it's not, then whatever, because we got bigger fish to fry today. We got bigger fish to fry today. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I released another book. Oh, I've got so many books coming down the pipeline. The issue now is I have to like slow down the release because nobody wants to just be like, here's 10 books. Where's $100? What's the point of that? Space this stuff out. Give you guys time to digest it, to eat it, to read it, to learn what it is you want to learn, to read what it is you want to read, to reinforce what it is you want to reinforce. Heaven forbid to enjoy the old school days where you would sit on the toilet and have a book on the back of the basin and you just pick that up and start flipping through. That was kind of the inspiration of it. So Praxeology Volume 3. Holy jeez, there's a third one? Yeah. The first one was frame. Frame is everything to do with the red-pilled concept of frame. The only thing it's missing is a coherent description, but I think Dr. Thomas Seeger, author of the best research on cold water immersion I think that's out there today, he's got a great book. You should check it out yourself if you're into that kind of thing. It's very research heavy, so don't expect to have like a light read at a coffee house kind of thing. But anyway, he's like, yeah, it's a metaphor. And I agree, it is a metaphor. It really does build on a lot of what mystery used to describe back in the 2000s. Frame control, the idea of the presuppositions that everybody in interaction agrees to. And you just take that concept and you run with it. And that's frame. Frame is, the best way I've seen it described is it's your worldview, how you react to your worldview, a collection of mental models that give you the anchor to make decisions. Now, you can have a good frame, you can have a bad frame, but you have to have a frame. If not, you have somebody else's frame. Somebody else sets the frame for you, and that's manipulative. Technically, there's nothing wrong with being manipulated. There is something wrong for you, though, about being manipulated for free. So make sure you're at least getting market rates for it. Book 7, Ryan's in-depth review of WrestleMania 6. Dude, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. So yeah, Volume 1 was frame. Volume 2 is dread. What is dread? Well, that was the other big concept that the Red Pill guys were really working on. Like, how do you navigate a struggling marriage, a dead bedroom, an alcoholic wife, a woman that's berating the kids? How do you get through all this stuff? Well, dread kind of covers everything. Every male situation that's come up. Well, not my situation. It's unique. And there's always that guy. It's something unique. I've never seen it. Relax. Everybody's situation is unique, but they're all the same. Everybody's a special snowflake. A six-sided star crystal made of water. It's all unique, though, right? Anyway, so it was the funny thing as I was doing research for all these books and going through the red pill stuff, and you guys have watched a lot of the research. I kind of just put it into video form because it allowed me to both like research things, but at the same time have like an income and a revenue stream while that's going on. Plus, just by putting it out on a video, it kind of makes you articulate it. So you realize, oh, maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something there. Maybe this thing is more important. It really resonates with the audience. And it kind of gives you like, it's research plus plus. The little programmer joke there. And then new camera, new angle. I've technically, actually, you want to see what's funny with this? You guys are asking these questions. So no, I have like a DSLR webcam, I guess it is. It's called the Mokos 4K. I've got about 15 lenses for it. Like a lot of lenses for it. They got Zotman lenses. It's absolutely craziness. And every now and then I like to switch things up. So what you guys have mostly been watching until today, I switched it out. I had this one. It's a telephoto, was it 50 mil? Yeah. And I've been running with this one for a while. I kind of liked the thing, but I've kind of switched over now to, which one do I have there? Oh yeah, that one's the telephoto 35 millimeter. So before I was running with like a 50 millimeter, and it changes everything. I don't know. So I was just playing around. Every now and then I like to have a little change. So it's not a new camera, but it is a new lens. I like changing them up from time to time. And I guess worst case scenario, I can always go back to the old classics, like from the XT2. I've got like $1,000 worth of lenses here, and I'm just like goofing around. Anyways, what's the sensor size? I'd have to go check. It's I can't remember the technical thing. It's the same sensor that the Sony A2000 uses, I think it is, or A2. So it's like full DSLR sized, but it's just inside of like a GoPro sized webcam. And then it has your, and it's funny because the lenses for it are the same type of lenses you would use for security cameras. Quality security cameras. So it's got a lot of, like, all of a sudden, like, the world's your oyster. You have so many options for it already. It was like a really, really well designed thing. I think they're out of the UK. But anyways, we're back to the books. So yeah, the 1 and 2 came out, and I realized as I was going through the red pill stuff that that's it. Like, there was only really 3 things that guys had to worry about. Broad strokes. There's always like individual things. Well, 4 technically. It was single guys who weren't getting laid, who wanted to get laid. It was married guys in struggling marriages. Basically, you know, wife stopped yelling at the kids, wife won't fuck me, or, you know, she's got problems like she's an alcoholic, or she just, how do I get her to not be so shitty towards me, kind of stuff like that, right? Hey, good morning, Swerve. It's Alex and Marty, Waldorf and Statler. So the third thing was like general malaise. I don't know what to do with my life. I don't have a direction in my life. And this isn't just young guy stuff either. There's older guys that have the same thing. Christian guys had the same thing. There was Christian guys that fell out with their faith, and it's like, well, now I don't know what to believe. Like, my wife was a whore, and the church took her side and kicked me out for being a good Christian because I didn't respect the whammon. And then there's, of course, the culture war stuff. It always sneaks in there, and the Trump stuff sneaks in. It was mostly off topic, but it kind of got to the point of like positive male identity. Guys liked the idea of not so much being praised. I mean, a lot of guys did want that, but people are stupid. But it's not so much about the guys needing and wanting praise just for existing. It was just like, don't denigrate us for existing. Because it's very hard to feel an attachment to something that despises you, right? So out of this, that was the only real things that came out. There was this, there was Dread, there was Frame. There wasn't really like a treaty on male identity, which Frame is kind of the way of getting your own male identity, because you can't just define a singular male identity, because that's the problem, is that it switches from a praxeology or a system of practical application to a system of ideology, from ought or from is to ought. You don't want that because it just doesn't work. It's been tried before. The new Christian right tried that. We're like, yeah, we're Christian, but we're cool. And it was just, I think Hank Hill on that cartoon was probably put it best. It's like, you're not making Christianity cool, you're making rock lame. I was just like, that's awesome. But anyways, where do you go from there? So I thought, well, the idea was lately the theme for the last year with me has been process. What is process? Well, process is, there's a finished work. Here you go. Enjoy yourself. That's great. Everybody loves that. It's good. Everybody loves a solid finished thing. But it's been a trend for a long time now in various different niches and even kind of mainstream where people just don't want the finished project. They want to see the love that went into it. Like you see that with cooking. People that are doing cooking, they don't want to just like, here, feed me. They want to see the chef talk about the food. They like Alex, is this French food cook guy. And he goes into autistic detail about like how to dry pasta. And you would think like, whatever, it's just dried pasta. You pick it up from the store, you boil it, you eat it. Why not make fresh pasta? And he goes into the science behind it. He goes into this. And it's like, it's a whole process. And you see like the factories that make it. There's like a science to it. And you're like, oh, wow. And how does this change the texture of the pasta? And you're like, oh, it's kind of cool. So people actually wanted to enjoy pasta on a whole new level. Sawmills, same thing. Over the hill, over the P. OTP is what it's called. I can never remember what the acronym stands for, though. But it's not about just, here, you want wood? Here's some fancy this wood. He's showing you how the sawmill works. He splashes water across it so you can see the wood grain perfectly. And he shows you like how people find these rare woods. Sometimes they're just sitting in somebody's yard for years and he has to like salvage what he can. And like, I know more about sawmilling than ever, but then he charges a premium for his wood, obviously, too, right? So yeah, process. And that's the point of Praxeology Volume 3, and in probably another 6 months, Praxeology Volume 4. Show me the process. How is it you get to a place where you can write a book on frame, where you can write a book on dread, where you can be red-pilled, where you can run a podcast or whatever? And that's the point of this. It's a collection of short stories and field reports and not so much short stories, but field reports and theories. Because that's all the Red Pill ever was. It was a bunch of people writing field reports amongst each other. This is what I did. This is what I wanted to do. This is how close I got. These were the good parts of that. These are the bad parts of that. It's part of what they call an OODA loop. OODA. Observe, orient, decide, act. Right? So the idea is, okay, I want to, do something. So I'll make a decision. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this way. And then you go and you do it. That's the action. And then afterwards you observe, okay, what happened? And then you orient. The orient is like, okay, so like clearly that action worked. I need to do it more. Clearly that action didn't work. I need to do it less. That action had no effect whatsoever. So what is it I'm doing wrong? And you just iterate that hundreds, thousands of times until you get there. But that's the process. So like, for example, when you guys get Praxeology Volume 3 at Amazon bookstores now, right now it's in paperback and it's on ebook. I have not recorded the audiobook yet, but that is on the to-do list. I am working on hardcovers of all the books right now, as well as getting final edits are gone to the editor for the Dog Walker. The one thing I am thinking of that, it's a bit of a distraction, but whatever. I think it's important. It's actually fun. That's the fiction book. That's literary fiction. The thing about that one is I think I'm going to do a different pen name for it. I don't know. Some like maybe just Ryan by itself or something. But I want it separate from the Ryan Stone because I realize if I like somebody's book, I often look through their back catalog, and somebody who's there for fiction is probably not going to be like, I would love to learn about Frame and Dread. So I think by keeping them separate, and if you know Frame and Dread, then you're going to like it anyway, so you'll come over there. But for people that are over there who necessarily don't like this stuff, I think that's the way it's going to go. Yeah, CICT Mux here, got your books, both of them. Good. Ryan is Andrew Tate, or rather Tate is as he should have been. Well, it's actually, it's funny. I see the super chat, by the way. We're going to get to those in just 2 seconds. But Chrissy Mayer. Remember when I went on her show a year back, 2 years back? I don't remember how long ago it was. And it was something I saw in her chat, which was actually hilarious. Like, dude, this guy's like a kinder, more personal version of Andrew Tate. And I was like, did Andrew Tate steal my gimmick for his stupid War Room stuff and then just turn it like, if Ryan and Dick Masterson on Dr. Phil had a baby, would it be Andrew Tate? And I realized, yeah, kinda. The good parts, not the bad parts, not the parts that make you angry, which I kind of should have had. Anyways, Let's get these super chats out of the way. First off, we got Johnny Trejo, $9.99. Good morning. Well, good morning to you, sir. Happy Saturday to you, Couch. Happy Saturday to you, too. Congratulations on the new book came out. Just curious if the story of F.U. Brian McKnight will be in The Dog Walker. No. So, The Dog Walker turns out there's a term for it. They call it autofiction. You're like, what? It's like autobiographical fiction. You take the idea of some real life stories, but then you don't feel like you have to stick to realistic history. You're just using it as a stepping point for a story. It's kind of like a hybrid. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's in Fuck Files that I'm just like, it wasn't relevant to a story structure. And there's a lot of stuff that's in Dog Walker that never happened because it just makes more sense from a story perspective. And it's not even like the character's not even me. The character's a guy named Reginald. The idea there is like the idea of like Oedipus Rex. And I was like, oh, as a promise keeper, I kind of get it. So I put that in there. So that's the character. And he has different motivations and he has different needs and wants. And he's a separate person from Brian, right? Some of the stories are based on like similar to real life events, and they're not realistic. The idea there is it's supposed to be a fun, enjoyable read. And so far from the people that have read it, even the ones that I don't pay, the part that, and this is the part that I think is going to be good, is that there's two types of books. There's one type of book that feels like it's a slog to read. You read a chapter, you put it down, you kind of pick it up again and whatever. And then there's ones where it's like you don't want to put it down and you're like, oh, I have to go to bed. All right, I'll leave it here. And like they actually get mad when they have to put it down and do something else. This one is one of those. So that's the part that I'm pretty psyched about. I think it's going to be great. But we're not talking about that one right now. We're talking about Praxeology Volume 3. But yes, I'm glad for the hype. I think you guys are going to love it. And then Sam Whiskey, $4.99 super chat. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Are we at that sad point? Are we at the sad point? I don't think we're there. We're still talking about Muppets. Just Muppets. So back to Praxeology. Yeah, and I started off, like the introduction is mostly just to let you know what you're in for with the book. But the first chapter, I'll let you guys in on a secret. The first chapter, a letter to a dude on the margins. And it was a theory surrounding what I've talked about before is the male bell curve. This isn't hard science either, so I don't have like a rational male chart on this, but it's an illustrative example to let guys understand what the space is like right now, right? So what we have is a bell curve of male success, failure, achievement, whatever, just men. It's a bell curve of man. What is man? And in the middle of the bell curve, you have the average person. They're going to do average things. They're going to have average results. It's going to be an average distribution. And then on either side, you have the tail end. So on one side is the guys that will, no matter what happens in their life, they could win the lottery and they'll still fuck it up. They will be a failure and they will fail and there's nothing you can do to stop them. And that's it. You could put them in Stalinist Russia. You could put them in Star Trek's Utopia. Does not matter. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm aware Rex means king. It's mostly just a play on words because Oedipus, there's no English word that would sound cool as Oedipus. I guess I could call him Eddie, but it's a little late for that. Eddie, besides, it's a weird name. I don't like it. I went with Rex. I knew a guy named Rex. He was an alcoholic. It was pretty funny. No, not even man's relationship to nature, just man. Anyways, on the other side of the bell curve, you have the other tail end of guys that will thrive no matter what happens. No matter what goes on, they will get laid, they will settle down, they will have a family, they will succeed. They're the top tier. You know, they're the like whatever name you want to give them. Call them alpha males if you want to. I don't really care. It's not a Vox Day thing, so don't, but whatever. Now, the thing that's changing is the phase of that bell curve, the environment, and the idea of the female gynocentric social order, or the feminine primary social order, whichever one you want to call it. The land of abundance, the detachment of provision from the male experience, like the need for provision, the Industrial Revolution and all its effects. Yes, he's going Ted Kaczynski on this one. That's shifted the bell curve. So it's like it's phased to the left or the right, depending on how you do your scale. It doesn't really matter. And if you've looked at it, you've ever seen two bell curves side by side with some space between them, you see there's like a sliver on either side that's part of only one bell curve that there's no overlap on. So for in the middle, there's still a group of guys that will have average outcomes. They'll have an average amount of women in their life. They'll have an average relationship, an average whatever, and they're fine with that. You know, muddling along. Mid is mid. On the other side of that, you have a new group of guys. So there's the guys that would have failed no matter what. They've moved over further to fail. They're your incel shooter types right now, right? As opposed to what before they would have been like the layabouts doing nothing with their lives. Now they're doing horrible stuff. Now that sliver of where the bell curve ceases to overlap are the guys that were average. They were just holding on to like an average, sustainable sex life, relationship life, family life, all that stuff. They have been pushed out to the margins. And this is why the red pill is never going to be an attractive space, because those, I think Archwinger calls them the lovable losers. They're the ones that, yeah, we had a shot before, but the way the environment has changed, we're fucked. And those are one of the two groups of guys that the red pill is for. Those are the ones there. It's like they're deficient, but there's a way to get back there, and they're capable, but they're very, very marginal. And this is why so much stuff you see coming out of the red pill is like cringy or unattractive, just embarrassing, like all that shit, right? Yeah, it's because these are generally losers, but they don't need to be losers. It's not like foregone conclusion. And then on the other side is the guys that were just at the cusp of like being awesome, making it no matter what happens, and they get pulled into average. And they're the ones like, I should have been better. There's something about this. I used to be great and something went wrong and I don't get it. And that's the other group. And these two groups together, they form like a symbiotic kind of arrangement when you put them together in this kind of space. I find, and this is more of like a meta of the red pill, which I find absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I think I referred to them was it in Fuck Files? It was definitely in Frame. Anyways, I called them Chad. I use archetypes like Chad and Billy. That's why I always use Billy when I refer to the blue pill guy, because it's like, that's that guy. Chad and Billy. Just illustrative names. Don't worry about it too much. But Chad was the type, he got all the girls. He knows what the promised land looks like. But fell on hard times in his marriage. His wife left him because he got sick. Gained a little bit of weight because of a back injury. The 2008 housing crisis destroyed his industry, and so his wife, like stuff like that, right? A Me Too accusation. The Daniel Perry, I think Daniel Perry's the guy's name. Not Tyler Perry, but the Subway Strangler. That kind of situation, right? Less extreme, but that kind of situation. There's those guys that should have been awesome, but something happened. And they have a great benefit because, and this is one Ultimate Cat, he put it best, where he goes, like, where else am I going to brag about this stuff? I can't talk to anybody at work. I can't talk to my wife about all the tail I'm getting. I can't talk to my priest. I can't talk to my family. They're all getting angry at me. You anonymous guys are the only people I can talk about the promised land to. And you're like, oh, okay. Interesting. I mean, so it's, most guys would consider his lifestyle of like banging random people while his wife's at home with the kids immoral, and that's fine. It's not a hard case to make it, that being a pretty immoral way of living life, but you get insight into that. Like, that guy is crushing it. You don't like it, but he's crushing it. So what is it he's doing? And is it possible to take the parts of that, piecemeal, the parts of that you do like, and have trade-offs with the parts you don't like and the consequences of not accepting them? Like, oh yeah, well, that means, maybe I'm married and I don't want to sleep with every other girl in the neighborhood. That's fine. He's doing it, it gets him there. But why not take parts of those that work and then just not sleep with girls in the neighborhood? Well, most guys are too morally, but the red pill guys, like, let's give it a shot. Turns out it works. Just add a little bit, 20%. And of course, there's always the idiots who call it like, there used to be a term for it. They called it alpha with the side, or beta with the side of alpha, or alpha with the side of beta, something like that, which is like the weirdest thing. The idea was they wanted to be like just edgy and sexual enough, but they still wanted feminine approval. And it's like, you're missing the point. It's not about approval at all. It's about effectiveness. How effective do you want to be? If you want to be solely focused on one aspect of your life, just getting your dick wet with as multiple women as possible, yeah, there's a way to go about that. But most of us don't. Most of us have like a more realistic expectation. And yeah, so that first group of guys is like, this is how you get there. And they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm prepared to go that far, but you know, that direction seems to be a good direction. Why not just do, it's kind of similar to catch and release. Do as much of it as you're comfortable with. And then once you cease to become comfortable with the direction it's going, you stop. It's like working out. I don't want to work out and get too big. You're not going to get too big. You won't. You won't. None of us will. Almost nobody will. Work out until you're as big as you want, and then stop single-handedly devoting yourself to the growth, the muscle. Like, oh, really? You can do that? It's like, yeah. Surprisingly enough, you can do things and then just stop doing them when you've achieved what you wanted. But you have to know what you want. And that's a lot of the work on both sides is like, what do you want out of this? And most guys don't have an answer. So yeah, the letter to the dude on the margins. It's kind of letting you know this is the kind of stuff that's in there. And then those loser guys, they have an advantage too. And like, I could have been something, but you know, I'm basically knocked out of the market at this point, right? But the one blind spot that the guys who are, you know, top of their game have is that everything works. Like when you're attractive, people are nicer to you. So you don't really get to know people who don't want anything from you, because they do, the halo effect. They just want to be around you. So of course they're going to be nice to you. But you get a guy that like, yeah, women have never needed anything from me. And you see how they treat him different. He gets a much different, more dirty and realistic aspect of people. People shed of their incentives. Now, there's huge value in that, too, because when you realize people are at their worst, yeah, your marriage is great right now and you're top of your game. Things go sour. She starts acting like one of those ones. It's like, oh, I remember that Billy guy talking to me about this stuff. So I know exactly the dynamic that's going on. And then you can make decisions, whatever decisions you have to make, right? So yeah, it's just happenstance that these two groups of guys, the Chads and the Billies, came together for a brief period of time, making the Rambo 3, the Die Hard of sexual strategy. Some were married, some were single, some were divorced, some were gay, some were cucks. So it's like, oh, there's like, as long as you're there for the right reasons, nobody cares who you are. It was one of the truly meritocratic virtual societies out there. And it was great. And I like the idea of writing it down. So yeah, so letter to the dude on the margins, just letting you know that this stuff is here. And then it goes through a series of like case studies, right? So you'll get case study, man who's afraid of his wife's emotions, type 2 captain, accidentally learning how to cheat, a case study being a stay-at-home dad. And the idea of this is it's 1, 2, 3, sometimes multiple field reports from a single guy or two or multiple guys longitudinally. So it's not just, this is this one field report from this guy, this is what you can take from it. This is like, here's his first, his second, his third, then 6 months later, his final field report. And here's gives you a longitudinal idea of the red pill stuff, right? Because you never know. It's very easy to say, work out and get the girls. Very easy to say that. But, you know, with a guy who worked out, did he get the girls? You don't know. Did you have the confidence to go do it yourself? Well, you know, most people are like, yeah, it worked fine for me. But I just find there's a certain rigor that's missing from it. And that's what this was attempting to achieve. Well, I think it's what it did achieve. It's what I was attempting, and it successfully achieved. So you get to see it. And it's funny because it's a lot dirtier than you expect. You think it would just be guy does things, guy improves, life gets better. It's not necessarily so. Guy does things wrong or ham-fisted or half-assed, or guy's ego hides from him what he's actually doing, even though he thinks he's doing the right things. Then situations change. You know, sometimes there's an initial success because just doing anything is better than doing nothing, but that quickly drops off. Then the guy has like a, you know, crisis of faith, realizes he's making stupid mistakes or other guys pointed out to him, gets back on the horse, tries things, reaches a new state of normalcy that's better than what he was before now. And then some guys is like, dude, this is better than I could have imagined. This thing ends up great. My wife is now, you know, ass on tap. Ass on tap. The kids are well behaved. Life is good. I got a raise at work. That's awesome. That's great. Good for you. Some guys are, yeah, okay, it's better, but you know, my wife's got like Catholic guilt thing. She's just never going to be the sexual dynamo that I want to. And then as a guy, you're like, okay, do I alter my expectations to keep the status quo? Or do I go and get my needs met elsewhere? Because normally they would just like, I would just love to sit here and bitch about my wife, right? That's what they say. But it's like, Doesn't really solve anything, so you're gonna have to pick a lane. And that's the part that I love about when you read like a lot of the case studies is, okay, so now that you're done bitching about it, what's next? And they have to make a choice. And right there, it reminds me of that saying. You know the saying, if you don't know what to do, flip a coin? Because whichever side you're rooting for to win, that's what you wanted. This is literally that. When a guy forces himself to make a decision, he has to pick something. He has to have a preference. And then you kind of find out and then he kind of finds out what he wants. Because we never make decisions. Guys are horrible at this. We love to just let life happen to us. Well, if I don't make a decision, things will happen. It won't be my fault. And then I can just live with the consequences. Here's the problem with that, though. One, it's what women do. Don't do that. Two, the whole benefit, one of the primary things that make men is their ability to cause influence on the world. They're able to change their environment, right? It's a very rare quality. Lions in the savannah don't change their environment. Yeah, they eat deer, but there's an equilibrium and they largely can't get outside of it. Only humans and only guys seem to be able to fundamentally alter their environment without some kind of equilibrium standing in our way. See you at the top too, Rudy. Where's I going with this one? Oh, yeah. So make a decision. And here's the thing. When you make a decision, you're revealing preference. And that's another thing guys just don't seem to grasp anymore, is that you're allowed to have preference. Every guy, you even see it. Every guy even guys who are like allies, red-pilled or whatever, and they just talk about, they just want women to acknowledge. I need the feminists to admit this. It's like, no, you don't. Who cares if they admit it? I just need the politicians to admit they're screwing us over. I've even been guilty of it from time to time. Because God knows Canada's politics are a garbage fire right now. And I'd have to look back through all of my complaints about the Trudeau thing. But I'm pretty sure I've done it too. But I mean, at the same time, I'm aware. And when I look back, I'm like, oh, that's fucking stupid. What do I do about it? All right. Exactly. Revealed preference versus stated preference. Teaches you a lot about yourself, right? And you have to get there with these, goofy case studies talking about you're a stay-at-home dad and your mom and the wife stopped fucking you and you have to figure this out. And the one guy, he went to prostitutes. He's like, I'm getting my needs met. He went to prostitutes, a lot of prostitutes for a long time. Ended up with it. And then look, I'm not going to lambast him for that decision. It's like, whatever. It's an option. You can't take options off the table, even if it's not your thing. It doesn't mean it's not nobody's thing. Clearly there's a market for it. It wasn't working for him. He didn't like it. Multiple reasons. It's in the book. I won't go into there, but that's the point. He made a decision. He tried something. He found out he didn't like it. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to decide after you've done something that I don't like doing that anymore. It's like basic bitch assertive Bill of Rights. You're allowed to say, I don't know. I'm allowed to say, I don't care. You're allowed to change your mind for any reason whatsoever or no reason at all. You're allowed to do any of this stuff and nobody can stop you because you're your own judge. Oh yeah, but my wife would hate me if she found out. That is true. But do you want it? Well, then work on not getting found out. Because most guys want to get found out. That's the worst part. When it comes to people that are caught for infidelity and that, it's never the wife becomes super sleuth. It's always the guy is so crappily, transparently not hiding his tracks that you can't help but stumble upon the mystery. Crime, too. It's like that CEO killer guy. Assuming this is not an op. Assuming it's not a false flag op. You're going to go to McDonald's dressed as in your killer outfit with a murder weapon and a manifesto in your backpack. I'm like, come on. Come on. Nice stack of books right there. You can have the same stack, sir. You can have the same stack. Except for the bottom one. That one's out of print. There's only 12 copies of those floating around. Are we in a Lee Harvey Oswald situation? I fucking hope not, sir. I really hope. The one thing I've been so proud of is that every time you see some mass murdering psycho on the internet, your Roman McClays, your Luigis, your Hans Brevitz or whatever his name was, like, never see him interacting with me. You see him interacting with everybody else. Oh, like the Luigi guy. He was a huge fan of the date site guy, the guy who's been hating us. Pat Stedman. Oh, the murdering Roman McClay loved Pat Stedman, and the murdering guy loved Jack Murphy. And you're like, oh boy, all these people in my space. And for some reason, whenever it comes to like somebody going off on some criminal spree, the one guy he never seems to be buddies with is Ryan. And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason for that. You sniff out stupidity right quick. Yeah. Speaking of which, you know what? You guys didn't. You know what? Actually, you know what? Let's use her. Oh, wait.
One of the guys who ran the Red Pill channel sent me a message. I actually appreciate that you took it from...
Oh, damn it.
One of the guys who ran the Red Pill channel sent me a message. I actually appreciate that you took it from an idea-based perspective instead of ever resorting to personal attack. Like, if this movement is actually going to be dangerous, do we need to understand it so that we can take it down? I knew going into it that this might be a hot mess. I'm not going to have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
Nuke. Joke's on you. I'm actually an idiot. Doesn't matter. You can be an idiot or the smartest guy in the world. Everybody's got the same problems. That's the other part that's the beauty of this. There's no intrinsic quality that's required. You mean to tell me you can survive and you're not 6 feet tall with six-pack abs? Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. May not be exactly what you want, and there may be benefits to one or the other, but you can do that. Well, I'm an idiot. Doesn't matter. You can be 85 IQ, starting fights with a little Australian girl with a long neck all day, and you can still be one of the most useful people in here. The bar is, A, the bar is that low. The bar is that low. And B, all it takes is numbers. Sheer numbers of human experience. We can make fun of stupid people, like Old Dirty Bastard, 13 kids. Traditional conservative genius, 1 kid. If you want to make how many kids you can pop out your priority, the dumb guy making rap songs sounds like he's way better off. Yeah, good marketing. I might do a thing on that too. Anyways. See Chuck here. It's not the act most people regret as the people who walk away as a consequence. Well, see, and here's the thing. I don't say wrong very often, but I think you're framing it wrong. You're framing it wrong. The people who walk away as a consequence. It's the fear of abandonment. Same thing, phrased differently. See the difference though? The idea of people walking away from you as a consequence. That sounds like, oh, I've fucked up and they've judged me poorly and they've decided to be gone. I mean, it's not wrong. It's just the way it's framed is strange. But when you feel it as a fear of abandonment, it's not so much that they will walk away. It's that you're worried they'll walk away. You're worried that other people will abandon you. And there's a visceral thing on that. It's like, offer a guy a dick. And most guys will have like they couldn't articulate no. But it's like, no. Unless you're Destiny, in which case, whatever. Sam Whiskey, $9.99 super chat. Sir, what's the psychology behind choosing Pantone color PMS 7406C on the cover of Volume 1 and 2? What's the cover for Praxeology Volume 3? Hold on a sec. I haven't done my Pantone swatches in forever. I gotta look up specifically what you're referring to here. Is it that one? Oh, I see what you mean. You're talking about, why did you just say yellow? I know what you're saying. I actually don't refer to them in the Pantone swatches here. For here, it's just a CMYK value. So that makes sense. Yeah, there's, there's technically subtle different colors on all of them. The idea was I wanted each one to have its own creative vision, I guess is the best way to put it. Having said that now, the hardcover editions are all going to be uniform. Because each book is different, right? And they all sell differently. Like Frame sells amazingly well compared to Dread, which sells pretty good, which sells way better than Fuck Files, which is the least popular out of all the stuff. Praxiology Volume 3, we'll find out. As it's standing now, if trends stay the same, it'll probably be the most successful one, which I'm happy with. I'll be perfectly happy with that. But right now, each one has a different thing. Like the idea of Praxeology Volume 1, it's got the paint falling on there. The idea of don't eat paint. It's a subtle nod to people who kind of get the idea of like doing this stuff, but don't create too many unforced errors for yourself. That one there. And I liked the yellow color, the Pantone swatch you were talking about, because just most of the books in that space were all pastel colored. And I like the idea of this one being bright, almost like hazard cone yellow. You know? Here's your warning. Then Dread, at the same time, it's a more, I don't want to say it is more expansive, but a more expansive book in the sense that it's about people and it's about relationships. Frame is mostly like a solo journey thing, but Dread is a relationship one. And then the idea there is So you remember back in the day when you'd read comics and at the end they'd have the turn Mac into a man? And it's like, I like the idea, like mail order self-improvement success stuff. And so I was kind of doing like an homage to that. And so that's why that's a slightly different yellow, because that goes more to the golden age of comics, sea monkeys, Mac into a man. By the way, you can also do this to fix your thing, because way too many people, whenever they have their whole like how to save your marriage bullshit, it goes one of two directions. It goes a guy chopping woods in black and white in the woods, ultra hardcore and super serious, but then it's always just like, it never matches that same thematic vibe, I guess. And then the other set is like teacups and Indian shawarma with the whole like, you can feel your heart to whatever, and it's past. And I didn't like either of those directions. So the idea of making a very strong statement towards like, there is a third path, sir. Treat it serious. Like, don't take it too seriously, but take it seriously enough. Don't take it literally, but take it seriously. Like those concepts, right? And that I'll put together there. Fuck Files was, I just wanted it to be, I wanted it to look like a trashy airport novel from like the 70s. Like it's got Franklin Gothic on it. Like the fonts are all different too. Like this one's Franklin Gothic. It's like a classic 1960s, 1970s looking text there. Dread is Helvetica. The idea is that's very clean Swiss design. Like literally meant to be modern. And it's the modern version of like Caslon or an ancient font there. I like that one. Frame, the typeface, this one, it's, I can't remember what it's called. It's a Gothic anyways. And that one was mostly just chosen for artistic. Like I liked the idea of the very, very tall and very thin and compressed text lines there. I can't remember the name of the Gothic one. I have to go, or it's a grotesque. Something grotesque. I'd have to go look it up. There's a lot of grotesques out there. So that was the thing. I mean, having said that, the hardcovers, I'm going to keep them all consistent. There's going to be a whole new vision for that one, but that's for people who like to have consistency. Because again, each one of the books, and Praxeology, that one I went with Bembo. I had my annual typography talk with Rollo. And I was like, yeah, I've been using Caslon for like the last couple books. I was trying something different. And I'm kind of like, I don't like Bookman. It looks too much like a kid's textbook. I don't like Garamond because it looks too like flowery and Italian. You know, it's too fancy. And so I was stuck between Bembo and Stone Sands. And he's like, or Stone Serif. He goes, Bembo's actually, it's making a resurgence. Everybody likes it now because it's kind of clean. It's kind of squat. I don't know. So it runs with Bembo in that one. And that's why that one has that look. The idea is it's classic but new. It's not meant to have like an artistic vision like any of the other ones did. It's meant as like a clean, crisp, modern, but still classic. Like that's it. It's vanilla pudding, but like properly made vanilla. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. This is the most amazing thing. It's like, it's not supposed to be this exciting roller coaster of a ride. Life doesn't work like that. Life is a series of mundane decisions followed through competently. And I want that reflected on the cover. And then the whole point of the, so if you look at it, my hardcover copy's coming in soon now, is when Nick and I were talking, he's the editor. Oh, hey, G, it's good to see you too, sir. Don't eat pain and nod to the military, a painful lesson for not retards. Also, absolutely true. Oh, dude, my next cover. You're going to love the next cover. We'll talk about that in a bit too. I might have to pull it up because it's like hard to describe it. But, so we were talking about it. He goes, you know what this reminds me of? And I was like, what? Like, you remember Reader's Digest? I'm like, I do remember Reader's Digest. He goes, yeah, it's like a toilet read because it's 2 books. 3 and 4 are all collections of field reports and case studies and theories, right? And he goes, yeah, but it's like there's no solid narrative structure in the same way that the other books had. It's more of like a mishmash of letters to the editor, short story kind of. It's like the same thing there. And it's not meant to be, you open it up, read the whole thing and finish it. It's meant to be, you pick it up, you read a chapter, you put it down. Next time you have to go to the toilet, you pick it up, read a chapter, put it down. I'm like, I like that. And so I wanted to make sure to set expectations. So I was looking through like old Reader's Digest from like 1920 to 1980. And then I settled down on a style that they had there. And then the idea is it's like a slice of life photograph, but then it's ripped off and underneath is like the actionable information, right? It's like we don't need the magic. But then it still makes reference to the magic. but you see underneath, it's almost like textbook. And it shows, and it's about process. So actually, it's not so much ripping. I shouldn't say ripping. The idea is that you're painting that complete picture of somebody's life, right? This is their life. This is them hanging out, doing something, a couple walking through like the streets of whatever. But it's not finished yet. And that's why at the end of it, it looks like it's not rip marks. Actually, it's supposed to be like paintbrushes, as if it's like you're watching something be completed in real time. And that's the whole point of the book too. So it's a subtle thing. It's a subtextual thing, but it lets you know it's like, this is not a finished work. The point of this is to watch the process. And you already understand that. As soon as you see the book, you're like, oh, okay, there it is. And it has a list of everything. Like the table of contents is right on the cover too. So you're like, oh, the table of contents is there. The cover's not quite done yet. You look inside. It's not people that have finished and come out of their thing solving their lives. It's not 100%. There's no closure. There's no climax. There's no anticlimax. It's just, no, life is moving on. People are doing the best they can with what they have. And here's your insight into what's in store for you from Dread and Frame. Because let's face it, a lot of guys, when they'll get these, they'll read the sidebar, they'll do all that stuff, but they still have issues with implementation. And I see it every week on Patreon. Every week on Patreon, we got a solid group of guys. I think it's up to like 400 now, which is awesome. Awesome, by the way. For me never advertising the thing, being able to keep subscribership that high and the support you guys have offered is just wonderful. And I have plans for that, which I'll talk about next week. But it'll be good plans, good things. Don't worry about it. It's not like not killing. A lot of things I'm kind of like hinting at, I'm not going to kill them. They're just going to be changed a bit in a good way. So a lot of guys are like, yeah, I'm doing Frame, and then they'll describe what they're doing, and it's not Frame. And you realize there's a disconnect from knowing the path and walking the path, and so getting them there. And that's the main question of this is, how do you get somebody who knows the path to connect that with walking the path? And here's what everybody did. Like, what's some of the other ones? Indiscriminate responsibility. That's a good one, where it talks about guys who take that extreme accountability, and no matter what happens, they put the burden on themselves. Everything is my fault and my responsibility, which, again, that's kind of a perversion of the idea of what you're trying to do. That's the idea of what Rollo calls mutiny, right? Like, where the captain first officer, well, she gets a say in the thing. She gets 50% of the say in the life, like a good first officer. It's like, well, what's the point if when things get bad, she just abandons ship anyway? So maybe that's a shitty model, and he's not wrong. Like, you're supposed to adopt that idea because it's a useful one. It helps you make better decisions. But ultimately, when things come down, a lot of things just aren't your fault, nor should it even concern you if it is. It's not about fault. It's about what is it you're trying to get. So when shit happens, what is it I want out of this situation? And then you work towards that. Well, it's your fault. Maybe. Like, doesn't matter, though. Who's going to be the ultimate judge? And that's the thing. If you put it on women to judge you, everything will always be your fault. So this extreme accountability thing is mostly like a long-housed way of guys internalizing that feminine primary social order. Do you think women's ever going to make something her fault? No. They'll never make something their fault. But you know that. So why? And so you got two choices. One, you make everything her fault, to counter force with force. What's the point of combating? Like, what? The 120-pound woman is your arch nemesis? Fuck that. How about this? How about just removing fault as a concern entirely? I'm doing things. They're going to have consequences. I'm going to live with them. Fault has nothing to do with any of this. Acting attractive when you aren't. That one was actually, I was tempted. So the case study I have, acting attractive when you aren't. It was originally going to be one on where cheating is an increase in dread and anxiety without an increase in sexual market value to accompany it. But I'm like, I already kind of treaded that ground in Dread, where I talk about like red-pilled versus blue-pilled cheating. So I'm like, whatever. So we went with this one too. Just acting attractive when you aren't. Like, I've read Rational Male. I'm the fucking man. And then you think everybody needs to like bow down to your like new top tier status, not realizing like nobody's seen any of this shit from you. You've been a fuck up, but you read some books and now everybody's supposed to change their opinion of you. It's like, no. This has to come at the end of actions. Consistent actions that people will have like a reasonable expectation to like expect in the future. So don't assume that you're awesome just because you think now's my time. It's like, no. The awesomeness will manifest after you make smart decisions. So yeah, it's interesting. So that's the kind of stuff in here. Oh, thank you, Marty, for the links, by the way. You know what? We're going to pin... I was going to pin Praxeology, but I'll just put that in the description. It is funny, too, seeing Sam talk about... I haven't seen like the old Pantone swatch book in years. You used to... here's for the art guys in the thing here. You used to be able to buy Pantone tabs. It was like a big list of like little bookmark sized tabs, and they'd be stapled together with a big rod in the middle, and it would be all the Pantone swatches. Pantone is like a coloring scheme, like how do you get this color or that color for painting, for digital, all that stuff. And it would be a stack of them, like 6 inches thick. You just get to sit there and you get to flip through and look for all the colors you wanted to do for whatever. It was nice. Actually, we got a good one here. So a super chat from... Actually, you know what? Let's pause the super chat. Let's have some fun first. Where is that? Is it this one I want? No, it's this one.
I don't usually post pictures of my kids online, but they're infants and you can barely see them, so you know it's fine. But a YouTuber named Ryan Stone tweeted, showing off the F trophies for clout. So the babies are trophies that I'm showing off. It's perhaps not a surprise that a picture of a proud father would be so upsetting to the sort of man who clearly never had one.
You thought I was going to go with the Jack Murphy. Now we're going to do that after. So Derek has a €5 super chat. Heartfelt FU of a super chat here. Why are blue pill ideas easy to market to than the red pill ideas? Well, that's an easy answer, dude. That's so easy. Everybody loves fantasy. It's hard to sell reality. It's hard to sell... I think Rich Cooper said it like this. It's hard to sell work because it's dressed in coveralls and it looks hard or something like that. Yeah. Chuck's also right in that women are the primary consumers. That's the other thing. So there's like a... It's almost telling on myself in that... Here, 1 second. I'll pour new coffee as I tell this one. Me sitting here doing this is kind of letting you know I'm an idiot. Not in the classic way you'd think of an idiot. Like, just classic and I'm not good at marketing. Because there's certain marketing truisms. One, women make 80% of the consumer decisions. Women don't earn 80% of the money. Women decide where 80% of the money gets spent. Men and women, worldwide. If there's $100 on Earth, women spend 80 of it. And that includes, and that kind of creates a market distortion, especially when it comes to things that are marketed towards men. Because they're not marketed towards men. They're marketed towards women's impression of men. And that's why you see like the Gillette boys will be boys. They act like a disinterested housewife. Because who's buying the Gillette stuff? The disinterested housewives at Costco buying it for their husbands. So they actually are the primary consumers. The primary consumers of male stuff is women. So yeah, you have to market that to women. Now, how do you do that? Like there's the Ray Romano type. Well, if you want to market men to women, you make men seem stupid and inferior to women. Because why wouldn't you tell a woman she's the greatest thing on earth? That's how you get her to buy shit. Hey, you're great. You're beautiful. Here's some Dove soap. Hey, you're great. You're beautiful. Your husband's an idiot. Here's some sausages. You know what I mean? That's a smart way to do it. I think it was even Wall Street Playboy. He said that back in the day. If you want to sell something, you either sell it to women or you sell it to high status men. And that's it. A bunch of reasons. Plus, a lot of like the not high status and not women are fairly cheap and stingy and they don't buy things anyway. So you have to work a lot harder. Hence why I have like 500 episodes of this fucking podcast just to sell some goddamn books. Meanwhile, Jordan Peterson could put out, hey, don't be mad at your wife. And he sells 1 million copies. Like, you sons of bitches. So yeah, they're easy because they're selling to women, but they're also easy in that they're fantasy. Like, what guy doesn't want to hear, turn your wife into your whore? Like, how I've seen 15 different brands have that same fucking pitch. How to turn your wife into a whore. I have been in the trenches with guys who have done this, and they've gotten every guru's course that's out there, and they've gotten everything from the red pill that's out there, and they hit a wall. Every guy hits a wall where they find out that every woman has an Overton window of her sexuality. She's up for trying new things to a point. She shuts down things to a point. You know, if she's sexually frustrated, it manifests one way. She's sexually liberated, it manifests another way. But there's not like a universal scale. You're not going to turn a woman, like a Catholic woman who's been browbeat and gaslit, into a sex negative personality for her entire life. And all of a sudden she's be like, it'd be great, anal on Tuesdays. It's just not going to happen. But that illusion of it, turn her into your whore. Good luck, sir. You want to know how to turn a woman into a whore? Find a whore and then, settle down with her. Yeah, it's always turn your woman into your whore. It's not like get that whore to settle down and not cheat on you. You ever notice that's the fantasy? And that's because there's like this weird Madonna horror complex thing that guys have where it's like, women, they think of women as like two separate things. There is a virginal Madonna, the good motherly type, and then there's the whore of Babylon. And then they think of women as those two separate entities and they can never mix together. Causes huge problems because the guy's like, the girl that puts out on first date, oh, she's not marriage material because she slept with me too quickly. And they actively select for women who don't want sex. Because, yeah, sure, maybe you find a girl that's super sexual, but she's holding it in her pants. She's like, I want to sleep with them so bad, but I got to wait till we're married because Jesus said so. Like, and I'm not saying those ones don't exist, but they are far, far fewer in number than you think. Most of the time, it's women that particularly don't like sex. They maybe want a baby, and so they have to have sex, and their hormones are kicking into overdrive, but they generally don't like it. But those guys who look for a woman being chaste as a virtue, they love those women because they're lying to them in just the way. It's like, hey, I don't just sleep with any guy. And the guy's like, I love that. That'll be a way to make sure she never leaves me. Then they get married, then they have the kid, and then she's like, yeah, I just don't want to have sex anymore. And they're like, that's weird. I never saw that coming. It's like, really? Oof. Did you? Like, you can obviously see it coming. Meanwhile, every day, I see the women that I grew up knowing, women I've sailed with in the military, some of the biggest whores on the planet, settle down, have their kids, have their husband, living mundane lives, doing crocheting on the weekends and all kinds of goofy stuff like that, working in the office, going to the Christmas party with the Brazilian booty dancers on eating a filet mignon, acting all above it all. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I remember all this. Yeah. Like and that's not, you can't sell that though. It's like, hey, whores aren't so bad. Nobody's going to buy that. Turn your woman into your whore. Make your Madonna your whore of Babylon, but only for you. Here's how, and it's all manipulative stuff, right? That's what, and this is why I always laughed. The same people who who loved Jordan Peterson are the ones that promptly ignored. And that's the other part. It's like the lie. Remember his only message worth keeping was clean your room. Before you try to save the world, sort your own shit out. It was probably the most basic bitch, but at the same time, the most in-depth thing he's ever said. Clean your room. Never followed it either, but whatever. We're not, glass houses and rocks and bowls, whatever. Nobody did it. And he was doing it in reference to woke people who like, I want to save the environment. And he's like, yeah, but it worked everywhere. The Christian guys, the Christian right-wing traditional types are all the same thing. Turn your wife into a whore. It's like, well, maybe you need to reevaluate the purpose of whoredom. The issue here you have is abandonment. The reason you don't want to marry a whore is because you're worried that she's going to become a whore and fuck everybody after you get together, which again, might be true, might not be true. But how many stories have you seen too where the girl was chaste and all that stuff, huge sex drive, they got together, all of a sudden she found like, what's great? Fucking all the Mormons in my neighborhood. It's like there's no guarantees. But once you abandon the idea of guarantees, but guarantees are great marketing, right? Oh, I love it. I could tell you exactly how to make a woman do exactly what you want. Make her squirt. These are like literal courses I've seen. Make your woman squirt. Turn her into your whore. How to get your woman to do, and it's all just used car salesman marketing about how to manipulate women. And then they have the audacity. To call us manipulative, evil sociopath. It's like a very projection is perception thing, I would get more passionate about it, but it's been like 6 years. I'm kind of just over it. I'm like, oh yeah, good luck, sir. I should actually. What I might do in the next year is just lean in on the kayfabe of it and become like over the top fucking howling mutant level of like offended by this shit and the stupid woke feminists. I think it'd be funny. Ross the Skunk, $5 super chat. Good morning, Canada. There's nothing good about it, sir. This shithole. Free gender, $5. I've been with my girl for so long that now I ask her to do, or do you want to go to dinner or do you just want the cash? She usually picks the cash. Jesus. Money's on the nightstand, babe. Yeah. That's funny. I can't take Peterson seriously after the whole Pat Stedman incident. Well, I don't know what those have to do with each other, but whatever. Oh, I get it. Yeah. Well done, sir. You had me read your thing. Where's the Orion Psych Hacks midstream infomercial? Don't forget the soft piano music. Actually, I do owe you guys a Jack Murphy. Because there's been 3 $5 and €5 super chats. So, my bad. It will be fixed shortly.
The meme, they're very good. This is really, they've taken it.
True Alpha
Named Ryan Stone.
It says, ask Murphy about the article he wrote cuckolding his wife. Clear up the cuck article. Clear up the cuck article.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me?
If I wasn't prepared to literally impoverish his entire bloodline,
I am now concerned for my career.
And I still recommend clear up the cuck article.
You know what? Fuck you for bringing this up. Yeah. Fuck you. Heartfelt.
I'm not gonna have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
Just use a little bit of fucking common sense.
It is just.
That's great. That's you should.
Fuck you.
Sorry, apologies.
Just keep going, dude. One foot in front of the other. Before you know it, this will all be in the rearview mirror. Fuck you.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna do the George Bruno ad. It's probably gonna be the last ad. I don't think I can get another person to freak out at me that level anymore, but. And I got it here, and I want to click it. The problem is it will just nuke the goddamn channel. It's like not even close, so I'm not going to click it. I'm not going to click it this time. I tell you what, if we make it to over $200 in super chats, I will show the George Bruno one. But until then, you're going to wait until I make an ad, because it's just like, financially, it's a stupid idea. It's like, no. I actually kind of would rather we not get there, so yeah. Homemade unskippable ads. Well, the difference, sir, is I make mine entertaining. So let's walk this back a bit. Let's relax. Give me that chopstick stirring Sultan. I can't. You don't understand how many slurs he throws out in rapid succession and loud. The YouTube algorithm, and he's clear. He does it with a clarity in his voice that the YouTube algo's like, wait a minute. I get it, Trump won the election. If you're still allowed to call these people that, all right, fair enough. Give me that for the Waffle House. Oh, yeah, the Waffle House one. Actually, where is that? Do I still have that? Hold up a sec. I gotta look. I think it's here. Yes. Oh, hoo boy. Oh no, go back to it. Get back there. Where's my George Bruno? Ah, there she is.
I'm giddy.
Scrolling here until we find Mr. George Bruno. Do you see that Waffle House there? There's murderers in there. See that Waffle House in there? There's murderers in there. I think, you know what? I think Manosphere Morning and Chick Talks, I think that's going to be my focus on this one. I've been thinking a long time now, and I still got some surprises for you. It's like where I'm taking this channel after Praxeology 3 comes out, the end of year stuff. I do think Chick Talks are going to come back, which is like such a dead medium anyway. Like, I don't think anybody's making TikTok reaction videos anymore. It was originally supposed to be satire, where I see a lot of these guys, they'd show like Tyler the Fiend and all these kind of goofy MGTOW dudes. They show a TikTok of some chick acting like a slut, and they're like, these women are whores, and here's my unfunny diatribe about it. And I thought, what if I took that and gave it all the levity of like a Miller Lite commercial from 1987. You know, the Hawaiian shirt, the super glasses. It's like, oh, there's murderers in there. Look at this fucking guy. And then Chick Talks was the one making fun of women. And the Manosphere Morning was the one making fun of guys. It was kind of like a gender war thing. The problem was, I had the same, like the Verhoeven problem, where you make a satire, but it ends up making one of like the best versions of the thing you're satirizing. It's like, God damn it. Yeah, whammon, am I right? Yeah. So it'll be good. Whammon, am I right, is evergreen. But I'm looking forward to honestly, it's the movie channel right now. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot to add that. So if you guys don't know, I'm gonna have something for you before the new year if I'm lucky. The Orion channel actually has a new video coming out. The question is, where did I leave it? This is like dead air. It's not supposed to have dead air. It's like the rule number 1 about media. Let's never do that. Where is it? The trailer. Oh, there she is. All right.
I took my mind off the pain by reminding myself I'd be exactly 2 inches closer to the stars.
You alright? Yeah. You wanna go dancing?
What? The sound? All right, hold on a sec. I'll fix that.
Alright? Yeah. You wanna go dancing?
There we go. All right, problem fixed. Problem fixed. That was a misclick on my part.
I took my mind off the pain by reminding myself I'd be exactly 2 inches closer to the stars.
You alright? Yeah. You wanna go dancing?
Do you love dystopic science fiction? Warnings of the consequences of our hubris? Do you ache for the most masculine story you never thought about until it hits you with a ton of bricks?
What the f?
Did you never in a million years think watching a man take a piss test would make you weep as much as you did for the birth of your new child? How about a future where everyone looks like the love child of a 60s beatnik and an 80s yuppie? Do you yearn for these timeless stories? Stories of the issues of today wrapped up in tomorrow, a movie that makes you remember what it means to be a man with, at most, 3 punches thrown and no gratuitous nudity? Well, I have the movie for you. In the age of the last Hollywood golden age, work of someone you never heard of, but hasn't missed in 20 years, brings you the greatest sci-fi dramatic thriller that you've ever seen. You don't even like this genre, but you love this movie more than your wife. It's the story of human potential.
Yours just happens to be an exceptional example. I don't know why my folks didn't order one like that for me.
It's a movie of overcoming the odds.
You know you're gonna lose.
It's a movie of inspiring others. It's 1984, where the good guys win. It's Gattaca, 1997.
It's not quite as like hardcore as the action. It's like, dude, it is one of the best. It is one of the best. I argue it's the most masculine movie you've never known you've seen. It's just great. Like, there's no way you watch the end and that piss test and you don't start being like, you have to get up and pretend to laugh because it's funny. Oh, it's so good. The stuntman who Jerome headbutts has the most comical expression on his face. I could bet. I don't know. It's good. I like it in that it's good. It's a really good story. It's like you wouldn't even think about it. It's the genre you never would have thought you liked. It's Jason Bourne minus the action. It's Rambo minus the action. It's just well fucking done. And it makes you want to be a better person. They don't make those anymore. Which, by the way, if you don't know, that's the same guy who did The Truman Show. That's the same guy who did In Time. And what was the other one? He actually did another one that was just crazy. We were talking about this on the gaming channel. Oh, a sec. I got to pull it up because I don't remember this stuff off the top of my head sometimes. Andrew Niccol. That's the guy. Oh, I think it was like a bunch of the Mission Impossibles. Oh, no. Lord of War. Remember Lord of War? But you see what I mean? It's like this guy, like Andrew Niccol, nobody knows who he is. But Gattaca, In Time, Lord of War, Truman Show. This guy's just made like the most amazing movies that nobody, like they're never popular enough to make somebody's top 10 list. But everybody's like, dude, those movies are all awesome. That's this guy. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. Yeah, Lord of War was great. And then I'll get that one done, and then Way of the Gun, which I can't even begin to describe how awesome that movie is. That one does have action, and that one does have gratuitous nudity. Like, that one is fucking swell. Plus the fact that, like, the jokes make themselves. The LaFontaine voice, do you ever want to watch Silverman get punched in the mouth? Because, like, right in the opening scene, Sarah Silverman gets beat the shit out of by, like, Benicio del Toro and Ryan Phillippe, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, don't save any for the trip back. Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. So Con Savage is talking about, like, Fifth Element and that, and I put that one with, like, Zorro and The Shadow and what's the one with Margot Lane? There was The Shadow. Oh, The Phantom. They were all, like, really good movies, but they were surrounding an era of amazing movies. But had you released any of these ones today, they would be the greatest. Like, holy shit, why do we not make these movies like this anymore? Like Top Gun Maverick right now, everybody's like, this is the greatest movie of all time. But that's because it's in a sea of mediocrity. Had you put Gattaca out, like, today, people would be fucking amazed. Like, holy shit. People can still do this? You put out The Phantom, you put out The Shadow, you put out Zorro, you put out Fifth Element today? Oh, they will shine in the sea of mediocrity out. They'll start talking about, like you'll see movie channels like, they need to build these again. Nonstop Dre 360 $2 super chat. When is the Fuck Files movie coming out, Couch? Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Not because of Fuck Files, but Dog Walker. Nick was like, you know what? This would actually make a pretty good screenplay, which I have no idea how that process works or if it even would. Could have just, like, he's motivated to make me happy about him as an editor anyway, which I'm saying he doesn't have to do. Just don't give me compliments. But he says so. And I'm like, maybe. So when you read it, think about that. Like, would this make a good Netflix straight to DVD movie? I don't know. But thank you, Dre. I know you're not being serious, but I'm going to treat you as serious. I think it pisses you off when I don't get mad that you write some bullshit on a $2 super chat 7 times a day, you son of a bitch. And then Andrew Tate's, you know what I love? Andrew Tate's Romanian passport, Pat Stedman's Polish passport. You guys have been here. I don't know if it's the same guy or not, but you guys have been here for years. You're like a staple to the channel. It would almost be sad if you ever got, like, arrested or doxxed or something, because it's like, you're as much a part of the lore as anything. Anyways, Andrew Tate's Romanian passport, $2 super chat. I love how Walsh is deering in the commercial. Dude, I'm glad you noticed that. Like, people who watch my stuff, like, who actually enjoy it and really like it, not just casually, and you can enjoy it on a casual level, that's fine. I put fart jokes in there for you. But I always try to add something extra for somebody who wants to really watch something. And it's like, that's one of them. The idea that instantly Walsh is, like, defending, excusing, explaining, and rationalizing himself to what I had is like showing off the F trophies for class. 7 words to make this huge diatribe, which shows you it's like, oh, maybe there is a point to this. Maybe he wasn't just being angry and emotional. Maybe there's, like, a message in there somewhere delivered as acrimoniously as possible. It's like, yeah, don't ever deer. Now, had Walsh just been like, fuck whatever, or have him just go, go fuck yourself, then that's whatever. But he had to make this big thing appealing to his audience. No, it's different when I do it. I'm actually good. You're like, all right, if you say so. Godzilla -1 was like that. Oh, really? It was B+ in 2023, which wrecks the curve. I picture Nonstop Dre 360 just spending his winnings or sending his winnings from cockfights on super chats. Yeah. So this is going to be good. What actor would play Ryan in the film? I don't know. Who can you get to play me? I'm like Tigger. There's only one. You'd have to get somebody who's completely wrong for the part, because there's no me. When you watch, it's funny too, when you watch Hollywood films, you realize there's archetypes of people, right? Like the James Franco and the James Dean, they're kind of like the same thing. That standard Indiana Jones heroic archetype there. Bruce Campbell, you got the strong jaw types there. Like, there's looks, right? The fat friend. There's no, like, Ryan look in Hollywood. I'm not saying, like, the leading man. I'm like, even this, like, there's no Steve Buscemi archetype that I fit into. But there's, like, multiple guys that kind of have a Steve Buscemi vibe to them, right? The Walken. The goofy ones. Yeah. The Tigger's a wonderful thing. Nonsense. We have DEI. I'm not really good DEI though. Because I'm like mostly a white guy. I'm just like a very tanned white guy. The closest you could find to me is like an Italian dude from 1982. That's about it. But you'll never find that same like gruff farmer military exterior to him. But that's the point. The military exterior guy is supposed to be one with the beard. The beard and the dresses in camo, tries to dress as a gray man, but it's so obvious. He's like, oh yeah, there's like 5 guns somewhere on his body. Like, I don't fit that either. Yeah, every Hollywood star has at least 1 or 2 doppelgangers. And that's on purpose. They do that on purpose because, like, you pick these archetypes up. Like the Sydney Sweeney bombshell type, there's like 500 of them. It's a Kim Basinger, basically. The girl next door, add a little bit of derp. You know, the girl next door, but make her a little more statuesque. Girl next door, but make her a little more butch. The androgynous, the Grace Jones types. Everything's about archetypes over there. Justin Trudeau, Matt Damon, and you guys are just saying whatever. Michael Keaton. 80-year-old Michael Keaton playing me in a movie. That would be the weirdest thing ever. Honestly, though, from what I've seen, there's a couple authors I follow on Twitter, and they talk about how some of their books have been optioned. Dude, it sounds like you don't even want a movie. You want to get optioned. You want somebody to buy the option to make it a movie. Because then you're getting paid just so somebody could one day make a movie. And you might not see anything for like 10 years. I'm like, dude, that'd be even better. What are they paying me for? They're paying me for maybe. I'm like, I can live with that. Well, that's the other thing a lot of the guys are saying. If you become too attached to your work, it's like realize that once somebody buys your work, it's not yours anymore. The director will have his own vision of what he takes from it. The actors will have their own vision of what they take from it. It's a collaborative process. The screenwriter will have his own take from it. The popular example that everybody knows is the one where Stanley Kubrick took The Shining from Stephen King. Completely changed it. Stephen King hated it. Arguably made it better, though. Like, Stephen King his thing was, everybody calls it a self-insert, where the Jack character was Stephen King, a down-on-his-luck boomer. Just these things just kind of happened to him. He's a good man, fell from grace. When Kubrick looked at it, it's like, no. This is an abusive, like, child diddler who just becomes an alcoholic and goes mad. Like, he was already an evil person, and he drew it that way, and it works way better. Like, you can't argue that. To the point that they had to make the sequel reference the Kubrick stuff and not the King stuff. And you don't even have to, like, guess, because they made a TV movie based on The Shining as well. I can't remember who the actors are. It's people that you kind of know, the character actors, but you watch it, and that, like, you compared to Kubrick's Shining, it's not even close. It's not even close. Do I make good DEI now that Luigi has proven the Italians are the true psychopaths? Who knows? Didn't the Star Wars guy regret selling Star Wars? You mean Lucas? Probably. Lucas is a weird case. I mean, the whole reason that Star Wars exists is because the guy didn't want to sell him Flash Gordon. Imagine that if Lucas had made the Flash Gordon action serials. There'd be no Star Wars right now. We'd all up in Flash Gordon. You'd be people dressing up as that elf that what's-his-face did that James Bond dressed up as. The book was way more disturbing than the film. Yeah. I mean, it's a book. You always have more options. Film, you're kind of limited. That's the one thing I've noticed is that everybody, when they try to make books, is I'm good enough now that I know what a bad book is. But I'm not good enough in that I can effortlessly create a masterpiece. There's always a gap between vision and execution, and the more aware you are of the gap, the larger the gap seems. But it also closes the gap. Yeah, it seems bigger, is closer. Willow exists because Lucas couldn't get the rights to Lord of the Rings. Yeah, see, like, that would have been great. That's the only problem is, like, we can't get the rights for this. It's like, well, make something then. Like, that's how we got some of the greatest stuff ever. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, Bill sees it. The Shining, direct-to-TV, 3-part movie from the 90s, close to what King wanted. Yeah, and if you watch it, it's like, holy shit. Kubrick's is so much better. So much better. So what I would say in a bad book, that I don't know about ones that men like too much. I don't know what people's preferences are. I just know I look at it in what is it about this that I enjoy and what is it that I not enjoy. Because I'm kind of like self-taught and I'm kind of still new compared to these guys. I've been writing for 20 years. And for me, I'm like, I've been writing for 5. And this is my first fiction. It's good, but it's my first. It was the things I don't like. And the big one is, and I share this opinion with Devin, the Theft of Fire writer, where they write a book like you're watching a movie with words. And I hate that. It's like you have to spend, even the Hobbit, even, or not the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings even did this. Remember that 50-page birthday party right at the start? It's like that. His man's hair was wispy black like the blah, blah, blah. Tons of adjective, tons of adverbs. You're telling every intricate detail of a scene. So if you would just read the books and plug it into AI, it would pump out the exact picture every time. And it's like, well, what's the fucking point of reading a book if you're just going to tell me what to think? Let me do the thinking. That's the whole point of a book. If I just wanted to be told what to think, I'd watch the movie. And I know part of it is because, like, for good authors, they want to be put into a screenplay, so they want to put the vision out there. So they're not actually selling a book to people. They're selling a book to Hollywood. The dog Fight Club Walker. Yeah. Oh, that was the case with the movie Limitless. The author of the book got paid for 10 years for the possibility of the movie ever being made. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, the funny part is tons of people on Substack write like that, even when they're doing nonfiction. And here's the worst part. Here's the part that gets me. So now that I know I don't like it, I have a feeling that if I go back into my back catalog, I'm going to see examples of me doing it. So I don't. I'm like, I'm not going to go look. I just know I don't like it now, and everything coming out now just does not do it. Yeah, the guy who did No Country for Old Men, I guess he was doing it too. Like, you described the sunset is amazing, and every little detail. It's like, let the person imagine things, because everybody's going to imagine different things too, right? So if you're telling a person what to think, all it's doing is being off-putting. Yeah, 100 years, people had nothing else to do, so they put up with all that description. Yeah, fair. Fair. Oh, one sec. The chat's disappeared. There we go, we're back. But it just seems like it's such wasted space, because there's so many other things you could do. You could describe the action. You can have more dialogue. You can have the story be more expansive, as opposed to just like filling words in there. And it was probably the best thing I'd ever read about how to write. Was if somebody is able to skim and still understand what's going on, then you have too much in there. Which it's a harder thing to remove that than you think. But I always try to approach it with the idea that if I just remove this paragraph, does the reader lose anything? And a lot of times you'd be like, oh my God, I've done that a few times where I'm writing something. I have the whole page out there and I look and I'm like, if I just got rid of this whole paragraph, what changes? It's like nothing. Nothing? Okay, fuck it. So it's interesting. C.S. Lewis was good at this, descriptive, but not too descriptive. Yeah, sometimes you just got to let it up to the audience. Things have purpose. And I would find, and that's what I'm like, so I'm making the new book, The Dog Walker. I know I should be just talking about praxeology for 2 hours, but fuck it. We're talking about our passions here. With The Dog Walker, it's meant to be like red-pilled fiction. What goes next, right? Well, all this red pill stuff, why don't we put it into a narrative format, make it enjoyable, make people have like enjoyment over this stuff, as opposed to like, do you really want to see another 1984 Spurg with his podcast yelling in the camera about fucking whammon? I don't. I'm kind of over it. I'm assuming you're over it too, or you wouldn't be here. So yeah, how do you write that? And then you just, you write it in there, but then it's, you already know all this stuff. Like, do I need to tell you? Cindy looked over to Jim. Cindy thought, my hypergamous instinct has told me that I need to find a man who's got more money. And it's always like explaining the character's motivation for what he's doing or what they're going to say. He says it roundly. Fuck, well, why don't you just, like, what would a round statement sound like? Let's just say that. He roundly says hello. Or he angrily says hello. Well, how would an angry person say hello? How about just put that? Grunts. Grunts. Stares. Just glares at the guy and It's like, does that not sound like angrily saying hello? Well, then just say that. And this is the part that I like about, because I have a hard time reading a lot of books. I'm just not a good reader. And it's easy for me to blame it on the writers. But I don't know, maybe I'm right. I don't know. We'll see. But like, if they're just, if I don't have to figure it out for myself, like that gives me something to do. Hey, I get to be a part of this. Nothing helps me keep interest more than trying to figure out what the heck's going on. Why did he say that? Oh, maybe he's angry. Oh, And then that's something to keep me interested, right? And then later on, when the anger results in some kind of situation where he gets punched in the face or something, like, that's probably because he was fucking angry at him the whole time. He kept grunting at him. The guy just wasn't paying attention. But you see what I mean? It's like a mystery and you get to solve it yourself. It's like putting together a puzzle. It's like the old choose your own adventure novels. If character does this, go to page 7. If character does this, go to page 12. Like, I get to go to page 12. Nice. Andrew Tate's Romanian passport, $10.01 super chat. When my wife asks for something other than just saying no, I put it back on her. Are you sure about that? It's been more effective, but there's still times for the firm no. Well, yeah, because what you're talking about there is negative assertion or negative inquiry. And it's a tool like any other. But it all depends on what the wife's asking for something. Like, why are they asking for something? Are they asking for something because they're bored and they want something to do? Are they asking something as a compliance test? Like, will he just do what I want him to do? Go get me a glass of water. So when you just say no, when you can do that, sometimes it's just you're being dumb. No. Amuse mastery, shut it down. No. Or it's nuke and like, fuck off. No. She'll get mad, but she wanted to be excited anyway. So there you go. Here's your excitement. Have fun. But sometimes negative inquiry or negative assertion puts it on because it's not about what they're asking. You understand the subtext with your wife. So when she asks for something, you just say, are you sure about that? Then you're getting her to explain and justify herself. You said don't dear. I said you don't dear. Wife can dear all she wants. Yeah, more effective. But here's the thing. What does more effective mean? When you say more effective, this is one of those things that I get to deal with it all the time in Patreon. Guys will say, I'm doing better. It's more effective. It's like, what does that mean? And most guys don't have an answer for that. Like, it feels better. But in your case, more effective. That could mean we have less fights now than when I say no. So in that sense, yes, it's more effective. But if it doesn't get to the root cause of what's going on, then it's not more effective. If it causes your wife to try to press your boundaries more often, then in that sense, it's not effective. But here's like one of the funny parts about this is like, what does effective mean? Because I talk a lot about container words. You know, you take effective, right? Effective on the side of a box. Fill it up with hopes, feelings, ambitions, memories, whatever. Seal the box, throw it at my feet. There, effective. But I have a box over here called effective, and it's full of all kinds of different shit. So we're talking about two different things using the same word. That's container words. Now, I'm not saying this to shit on Andrew Tate, which, by the way, $10.01 super chat right there should show you that I've got nothing but love in my heart for the man with the extra penny. No heartfelts at all. But it's one of those things that's interesting. Like, what does effective mean? And this is why I tell the guys, like, every time you're in Patreon, do not tell me your jargon. I don't want to hear about hypergamy. I don't want to hear about dread. I don't want to hear any of this stuff. Use your own words, because as soon as you start using the buzzwords, I don't know if you know what you're talking about. You don't know if you know what you're talking about, and we're not talking from the same playbook. So yeah, I know what hypergamy means. But do you know what hypergamy means? And do I know you know what hypergamy means? Probably not. There is some miscommunication there. Something gets lost in the signal. It's like the telephone game. So like, no. When you say hypergamy, just say what you mean. When you say effective, say what you mean. How is it effective? Why is it effective? Effective in what way? It's like I've said before with the difference between men and women arguing. Men have objective facts versus subjective facts for women. Guys, there's one reality, and truth is what closer describes the reality. Women, it's subjective. My truth. It's codified personal experience. And that's one of those examples of that. Effective has to have a word. Women say effective because then what you think effective and what they think effective works, and there's ambiguity there. And women always work in that realm of plausibility, deniability, and ambiguity. Nick, he glared and lit a cigarette. It was the way he said hello. Wait, what movie's Fifth talking about here? Somebody's counting ammo. See, Fifth, Nuke, I see your super chat. I'm gonna get to Fifth's thing here because it's like we're talking about French Wave now. I counted the rounds that they shot and the reloads were accurate, which is artistic as fuck, but a damn fine movie. That's like my problem with hard science. Hard science is in the same place at the 1950s were with films, where if a character was going from point A to point B, they would film him walking from point A to point B. Filled up a lot of screen time. It wasn't anything else other than to establish he goes from here to here. The new French wave in the 60s figured out, like, you know how people get places. You know how somebody answers the phone. So why are we telling you these things you already know? The whole point of a movie or a story is to tell you things you don't know so that you can learn from them, you can read them, you can enjoy them, whatever. If you knew it, why am I telling it to you? And that's when you always see like autists talk, and this is like the whole media literacy thing. You know, when people talk on the phones in movies, like, have you ever noticed that they don't ever say bye, I'll talk to you later? They just, as soon as the conversation's done, they hang up. You're like, what the hell? That's like the rudest thing ever. That's because you already know how it's done. You know how phone calls work. But what you don't know is what they're talking about on the phone. The dialogue choice is there. So they do that, and then they cut out everything else. They cut out everything. Just hang up the phone. Bam. Go back to your thing. You don't show a guy walking from point A, point B. You have point A, you cut to point B. Your brain is smart enough to like, oh, he probably walked from that edge of the room to that edge of the room. Or if he was driving, he has a car. You probably thought, okay, he drove from here to here. At most, you might see like his car out in the driveway. You're like, okay, there's his car. He drove here. I get it. And it's this whole not wasting the person's time by giving them details, by explaining why things. And loading ammo and guns are the same way. The whole point of an action scene, a proper action scene, is to drive the plot forward, right? Is that the catharsis of, you know, a character facing off against his enemy and achieving his new thing? Is it about throwing Hans Gruber off the building? Yeah, so they're going to have a gratuitous scene of him falling down to show off there because you've been building up how bad this guy was for 2 hours, and so you want to watch this guy die. Not just die, but just splat. I want to see him explode, right? But the thing is, when you're like counting rounds and ammunition to have that kind of consistency, it's people focusing on the wrong details. Like, we all know how, we know how pistols work. You know that you have X amount of rounds, you fire the rounds, and then you reload. But reloading is a creative choice. When somebody reloads, it's specifically because they cannot shoot. So in a movie, when do people reload? They reload when you want to break in the action. Oh, that's interesting. Never thought of it that way. Yeah, it's a break in the action. You watch it in John Woo films like Face Off. When they're reloading when the characters are going to have like a quick banter back and forth before they go back to killing each other. You know, excitement, a lull, excitement. That's the purpose of reloading. But then when somebody looks at it and it's like, he's fired like 40 rounds. Why is he not reloaded? Now, you can make the argument that technically you should have had enough action out of the way before you fired 40 rounds, so it should kind of line up closer to what weapon you're using. If you need to have a lot of gunfire going on, maybe something with a 30-round mag would be a better idea than a 6-round, like a 6-shooter. But it doesn't really matter. It's movies. I want my Captain America film to be more realistic. It's like, no, you don't, because you're already willing to accept that a grown man can be made 6 inches taller, 50 pounds heavier, leap over buildings, and has a shield made of invincible metal. Like, you've already had suspension of disbelief. And that stuff you're fine with. But he fired 7 shots of that revolver. That's fucking ridiculous. You know what I mean? So it's just about, and if the guy does it right, like if you do that suspension of disbelief, cutting out the shoe leather thing properly, nobody really notices until maybe like the 5th watch if you have autism. And I think that's when it's done well. Nuke here. $5 1 cent super chat. Is there any way to prepare yourself to write fiction besides putting in reps? Was going to read creating error arcs. Well, I don't know if there's like how many ways there are. Nick's probably a better person to ask. I just know what I did. So I tend not to worry too much about will I be any good at it. I just accept that I'm probably not going to be good at it, but I'm going to be better than a lot of people. And that's mostly because I'm just deliberate about it. So for me, my first thought was, okay, first I got to learn how to write sentences. And so I just grabbed Stanley Fish's book, How to Write a Sentence, How to Read a Sentence. And he talks about, there's like, I think 5 or 6 different techniques for sentence construction in there, which I liked. The idea is like, there's musical notes. Like, that's a C chord, that's a D chord. If you want to have, like, why shorter sentences work the way they work, why longer sentences work, the subversive one. Like, a sentence can be a series of items described based on their connection. So there's a scene where I talk about a guy who checks his Seamaster, his watch, right? It comes up a lot. Time. He's going to have sex with a girl. Oh, I got to check. I got to be at work at this time. It takes this long to get here. It's very nervous. It's very neurotic. It's very cut up and jumbled up. basically breaking down the time, like how much time can I have sex here and still make it to work on time, and going through all of those details, which I found hilarious because it's like he's sitting here sleeping with a girl and he's not paying attention at all to her. He's focused on his work, which kind of shows you, he's like, and it kind of shows you something about the character that's where he chooses to focus right now. But it wouldn't work with like long meandering sentences, and there needs to be no connection between the things. I have to walk here. I have to do this. I have to do this. The only connection is time. I have to go read the term. I don't remember the terms. I just remember the techniques. So that was how I got to that. So I'm like, how do these sentences go together? And then I thought, like, why would I want to use this sentence versus this sentence in this part? The next one was Trudy. What's his fucking book called again? I've read the thing like 3 times. You think I'd be able to remember it? Anatomy of Character, or The Anatomy of Genre. That's the one. And there was a bunch of little stuff here, there, and everywhere about and character arcs. And he puts it on the character arcs. The part I loved about the best of that is just ultimately a character arc is a few things. It's a want and it's a need. A want and a need. A character wants something and a character needs something. The difference is what they want is known and what they need is unknown to the character. But to you, you might know it. So if you watch like Die Hard, for example, what does the character want? The character wants to kill all the terrorists. The character wants to survive the Christmas party, or to survive the Christmas party. What does the character need? And the character needs to get back with his ex-wife. He needs to get back with her for Christmas. He needs to go with his family, right? That might not be the best example because I'm kind of just doing it off the top of my head. Like RoboCop, what does he want? He wants to stop crime. What does he need? He needs his humanity. And then through a character arc, the idea is he gets what he wants at some point, realizing it's not enough, it's not sufficient, or it causes problems. Then he has to go after what he needs. And you can make a tragedy where he doesn't achieve what he needs. You know, Cowboy Bebop dies at the end. But he did get what he needed technically. You want to know if he was, still alive, but he dies. And then every other character is just subordinate to that. So a villain generally wants the same thing as the protagonist, but the way he goes about it is the opposite. So like Hans Gruber, John McClane, they both want the same thing. They want out of this building. But Hans wants it with a bunch of money, wants to get it out. Bruce Willis wants it with like his wife and alive. Doesn't care about the money. Side characters, like a side character is always an aspect of the main character. And yeah, so I mean, I haven't read the Wyland one. It might be good too. But the thing about it I found is just like I like reading it, but I don't want to be a slave to it. I just kind of like everything else red pill. I put it in the back of my head. All right, that's there. I know that that's there. I make reference to it when I do stuff, but I don't become zealotous towards it. And then, trust my editor to put out like, right, what? If it makes no sense. But if it does make sense, then it's good. I don't know if that's a sufficient answer to your question at all. I haven't been analytical with my own creative process enough yet to give you a more succinct answer. It's kind of has to be jumbled like that because that's how it's up in here. Dark Knight Dev, $5 heartfelt FU of a super chat. Driving the bus right now. I gotta let addicts off the bus. Listening to you reminds me not to explain, just deflect, amuse, repeat, and exit. Oh God, yeah. Dude, I can imagine you probably know more than most that technique that people are using now. And it's like the most irritating thing. I cannot stand it. And it's like women do it especially, but everybody does it. It's a lot of poor people do it. A lot of stupid people do it. People just want to waste your time. And it's their delaying tactic is they act stupid. They act stupid and ask questions. It's like some subversive Saul Alinsky rules for radicals thing. You'll watch. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch a TikTok of somebody being pulled over by a cop who doesn't want to get pulled over by the cop. What did I do? What did that mean? Just every stupid... What does is mean? The Bill Clinton speech stuff. Yeah, and that's the problem. When you start talking to these people like real people, they're just going to start stalling and wasting your time. What do you mean you have to get off the bus? Dude, you broke the rule. Well, what rule? I didn't see the rule. What rule are you talking about? This one. So you're saying that get the fuck off the bus, you fucking guy. Get out of here. Yeah, don't let people waste your time like that with questions. Half the time, people are asking. It's because they don't want an answer. They want to stall you. They want to waste your fucking time. Because they figured out there's like 2 techniques to get your way when you know you shouldn't be getting your way. One is to get angry and act out, world star out. I don't want to use the real words because I don't want to be racist here, but you know what I mean. Yeah, you don't want to do that, but that's what some people do because nobody wants to have a conflict. So if I just start stomping my feet and threatening to kill pump somebody, people usually leave me alone and let me do my thing. That works until you meet a guy who doesn't work on, but that's your risk. The second one is to play stupid, so the other person gets just so irritated. It's like, you know what? It's not my fucking job to police this. Where's the cops when you need them? Yeah, I'm filming this. It's like, oh, shut up. Yeah. Yeah, deflect, amuse, repeat, and exit. That's another reason why all this frame stuff works great. Just fog it. You're saying this is a rule. It doesn't make sense, does it? Later. Because that's all you want. You don't want an argument. You don't want to explain to them. You don't want to teach them. You want them the fuck out of your face. You need to go. Broken record. You need to go. But I don't understand. You don't have to understand. You need to go. There's a second you in the chat. Oh, there's only one Santi for me, dude. Anyways, let's get back to R3. Oh, that's the Rambo one. Oh, there's the GB. I'm not clicking GB. Oh, okay, this one's fun.
There was a sculptor, and he found this stone, a special stone. And they said he had created a great statue. And the sculptor said he hadn't created anything. The statue was always there. We didn't make you this fighting machine. We just chipped away the rough edges.
I guess I'm not ready
yet. It's not as funny as the glow's blue, but it works. It works. It works. All right, and let's put out. Oh, dude, I haven't talked about this bitch in forever.
Here's a story of a cocky lady who thought her gold standard was legit. Then finally, when she got an actual challenge, it all went to shit.
I see courage here. Normally I would have waited this. I would have just ignored this one for a super chat, but this one's too good not to do. What technique works on these women who insist on filming their first dates? Just exit? Well, just express your needs. This is boundary enforcement. They don't know it's a boundary until you tell them. Now, you don't have to tell them, but, you know, it's a date. You're there. Why not make the effort for that, right? Hey, I'm not a fan of filming first dates for TikTok clout. Do you mind? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, sir, sorry about that. And they'll turn it off and they'll close it. Or they won't, and they'll explain it, and they'll diffuse, and they'll dear, and you're like, all right, well, that's good. But that's ultimately just a boundary. Same as any. I don't date girls that film our dates on TikTok. I don't like it. Well, why don't you like it? Well, why don't this? Well, are you just shaming me? And like all that babble? Same as like Dev on the bus. It's like, I'm not here to win hearts and minds. I'm here to tell you what I'm not going to put up with. And that's it. What you do with that info is up with you. And if they don't say, oh, sorry about that, let me just turn this off for you. I'm so used to doing it, you know, then that's fine. You move on, life gets better. But if they start being like explaining it and trying to convince you that it's a good idea, well, then they've already said, I don't care about your boundaries. So then it's back on you. Well, she refuses to respect this boundary this early on. What do? Multiple options. Me, if you have a lot of abundance and you got, I call a different girl on a date. I'll catch you later. Just walk out. Maybe you have no options. This is your only option. Maybe you want to fuck with her because you're bored. You're like, I'm just going to sit here. Maybe you lean into it. I'll give you some shit on your TikTok. You start pulling off a West Elm Caleb on this chick. I don't know, whatever. It's whatever you want to do. It's your boundary. But that's the thing. You just accept the basic premise is like, A, you cannot tell people what to do. B, you are the judge of your own actions. And C, express a boundary, enforce a boundary. That's it. A lot of the problems are but people not accepting one of those three premises, right? Or premises. Andrea Rodolfo Nadia, €5.07 super chat. That's a very specific number. I actually kind of like that. We might have to start rounding it off to 7 cents in the future because I like that. You end off things with 7, it does better for sales too. Thus, using his fingers with the intent of sending a super chat, he sent a super chat. See what I mean? Do you see how annoying it sounds? Like, yeah, that's an extreme example. It's a very on-the-nose example, but it's exactly how a lot of this stuff reads. Never quit while you're hot. That's how Roosh screwed up. Roosh overstayed his welcome. He quit when he was hot. But that's the thing. Nobody's ever hot. Like, what does hot even mean anymore? Tate had a year. He's done. He never quit. Look what happened to him. Or what is happening to him. Yeah, playing dumb is the non-assertive version of broken record. Yeah, it's a very oddly manipulative thing. With the intent of sending a super chat. You know what first got me onto that thing? The whole, like, explaining the motivations of everybody when they're doing things? It was Colleen Hoover, the most successful artist in the world right now. She's, like, the biggest deal. I read, my girl's like, you should really read, like, the best books out there so you know what you're up against. I'm like, all right, fair. We read her. I read Veracity. And every character, like, the all-omnipotent person knew the motivations of everybody. Why? It wasn't that everybody did things. It's that everybody had to let the reader know why they did it. Oh, he cleaned off his tie because of this. He had to walk in there because of this. He looked over because he's a kind person that does this. It reads like reality. You know how reality TV does that? Like, have you ever watched Love is Blind or any of those things where the person is just like expositioning every internal motivation? See, I have commitment problems. That's why I conversate with you. And you're like, this is such, and I get it because it's reality TV. You need to get it out there cheap. A bunch of strivers, like, this will be the start of my social media career. My character is archetype 3. I am acting in this way. I'm going to create some drama 3 episodes in where I do something that's going to be brought up again at the reunion. And then I get to talk about it like I'm a good person. But I'm going to make sure to blame somebody else. You're like, oh, for fuck's sakes. Anyways, so we're going to wind this thing down. We've had, I hope you had fun tour. Praxeology Volume 3. Dude, get it. Get it. Get the paperback. I would argue the paperback is better. It's like a full vision. Cover art, typography choices, layout, everything. It's made to be a full user experience. Get a basket, put it on the back of your toilet, put the book in that basket. Every time you go to take a deuce, put down fucking Twitter, grab the book, read a chapter. That's how it's meant to be enjoyed. If you're one of those people that read in the tub, put it in the tub. Grab yourself a glass of wine. Grab yourself a cigar. Grab yourself a razor and, down the tracks. Don't do that. But you get what I'm saying, right? Salesman. Oh, Ross the Skunk, $5 super chat. Heartfelt. Salesman was talking to customer at close that wouldn't leave or buy-ish. So I went back and turned all the lights off. All right, that one needs some work. Oh, wait, never mind. No, I just was reading it wrong. Yeah, the salesman talking to the customer at close. Not at close. At close. He wouldn't leave or buy. Yeah, it still needs some work. It's like multiple sentences. That wouldn't leave or buy-ish. So I went to the back and turned all the lights off. See, now, like, for me, this is kind of one of the ways I write, too, but if maybe this helps you, Nuke, because you were asking before, too, where I kind of write it as exposition, and then I look at that exposition, and I'm like, how would this be better served as action or as dialogue, or do I have to leave it as exposition? Because sometimes you have to. There's no way to not do it and make it clunky. So some not bad. Maybe it's a narrator telling a story. There's going to be some parts where he has to narrate because there's no other way to get the information across. But this one I would like, okay, so how would I do this one? Salesman's talking to customer. It's almost closed. He wouldn't leave or buy. Went to the back, turned the lights off. I would argue you could do it in like a combination of dialogue and action on that. So how do I establish that the place is almost closed? Maybe I have him on a phone call early on. Yeah, somebody calls into the store. Hello, bookstore, books, whatever. Yeah, what time are you guys open to? We're closing in like 15 minutes if you can make it down here. All right, sounds good. 14 minutes later, the guy shows up. Hi, I was just looking for this. Oh, yeah, it's over there. Well, what about this? Over there. And like through the dialogue choices, you can just show the guy isn't leaving. And you'll like hint at it, right? It's like, yeah, we're closing up pretty soon. But if you want to, the Colleen Hoover books are right over there. Well, that's good. He stands at the Colleen Hoover books. Hey, do you have this one? Yeah, we have this one. It's over there. Just so you know, we're closing pretty soon. Yeah, I get it. What about this one here? And I'm looking for this. And like through the dialogue choices, you can see the salesman's getting frustrated. The customer won't leave. He's not buying anything. He just keeps asking questions and wasting time. And then you just have, the salesman. Like, why would he just turn the lights off and leave? Maybe it's his store. Maybe he wants to quit the job, right? Like, there's a reason he doesn't want to stay open later. If it's his bookstore, maybe he does. He's like, you know what? A customer is a customer. I'll be here as long as it takes. That would let you know something about him. The fact that he's impatient is like, you know what? It's 5 o'clock. I'm closing down. Fuck it. That tells you something about him too. So in this case, he goes, just so you know, we're going to close in a minute. And a minute goes by. The guy's still standing there. I flick the lights. Sir, what happened? I told you it's 5 o'clock. Closed. Out. But you see what I mean? Like there's a whole thing about that. And then through all those little choices, you can decide, what does this tell you about the character? What does it tell you about the other character? How does this move the plot forward? And like for a clock or a phone call, that's easy because stores have clocks, stores have phones. But let's say it's something that stores don't normally have, right? Like maybe he needs a gun for some reason or whatever, right? Some situation like this might just be to establish something that's not normally in there that you can assume is in there. And it comes up later. So maybe the whole point of this scene is just to establish that there's a light switch that's right by the thing, because later on you're going to need him to hit that light switch to save a life or whatever. But like there's all these little decisions you can make. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, who cares? Like it doesn't need to establish that he is impatient. It doesn't need to establish that he can turn off the lights at the store. It doesn't need to establish that the customer doesn't want to leave or buy. It doesn't solve any problem in the book. So I just get rid of it. Ever used Hemingway editor? Great for writing. I've never heard of this. This is Andrew Tate's Romanian passport. I'll be curious. A desktop app. Oh, Nick, you're out of work, man. They got AI editors now. Look at that. This kind of reminds me of that ad they used to have, Grammarly, which I used it. I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is because it was... like it's good. I could see it being good if I was writing news articles. Like you want a very standard, like vanilla pudding statement. Like this is a proper sentence structure. This is here. This is here. It's clear. It's concise. It's bland. But like for creative writing, it's a different beast because the way I look at it is the purpose of creative writing. Oh shit. By the way, they're saying it's your 20th super chat on a live stream. I'm supposed to celebrate it. So fuck, here's a like. I don't know what else to do, but congratulations on number 20. But it's the idea of breaking the rules for a purpose, which is something I learned when I was doing reporting in the military, when you had to brief command or you had to brief the officer of the watch or the officer of the day, or you brief your snack, your senior naval communicator. And it's the idea was the reports were always, every time you say the same things in the same order. And it created a rhythm to it and a pattern, and everybody always knew, okay, and then nothing changed. But when you add a detail that changes, now it draws instant attention to that. And I would say it's the same thing here. So if I'm just taking like, this is a proper sentence, well, maybe there's a time when I don't want to use a proper sentence. This sentence is too short. Well, I'm trying to show the character is acting erratically. So I'm going to have a series of like 2 short sentences that have no connecting thread to them whatsoever. That's bad writing. But it establishes the guy's acting chaotic without me having to say, the guy chaotically said hello. You know what I mean? Air horn noises, Don DeMarco. Fucking guy. Yeah. But who knows? I don't know. Stripper was mentioning you should start writing, being like the angry Canadian, like doing like Clary, but for Canadian politics, blaming it all on the goddamn Democrats. And I was like, there's already a bunch of guys that do that. He's like, yeah, but you cuss. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I think the guy we have in Canada, his name's like Dirk McGurk. He's like a Saskatchewan farmer. Does his little farmer takes, which are pretty good. Because like JJ McCullough is more bland, but whatever. Will you make an ad for Praxeology Volume 3? Yeah, on my list of things to do is all of that. So an ad, an audiobook, hardcover. And that's going to be my work coming forward here, because Praxeology Volume 4 just needs the desktop publishing. The Dog Walker, once Nick gives me back the stuff, just the desktop publishing, maybe some like small minor changes, but nothing big. So my whole thing for the next little bit, and here's the workload, and we're gonna go to Rule 0 in a second, is the movie channel. Get those videos out on a more frequent basis. Once a week would be ideal, but I'm thinking once every 2 weeks would be reasonable. Get 3rd edition of Fuck Files out with the new account. You're actually going to like the new art style. And then hardcover editions for all of the books. And then audiobooks for Praxeology 4, Praxeology 3, and Dog Walker. So like that's a lot of work, but I think I can handle it. And then on top of that, I don't know how, if, or when to fit it, but like Chick Talks, Manosphere Mornings. I want to make them short, snappy, formulaic, like something that'd be easier to mass produce, but without making them into just bland, boring 5 minutes talking into a camera, like that Styx Hammer 666 guy. You know the one? He's like, he always just does political takes and he just sits there talking to the camera for 5 minutes and then he's done. I don't want to do that. But yeah, then the ad for Prax 3. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but I'll figure it out. Plus, I've got a whole bunch of new camera gear. Like I just showed you all the new lenses here. My X-T2, I haven't filmed anything in forever. I've got an Insta360, which is like, it's like a GoPro you can stick in your mouth, dude. It's fucking awesome. It's a magnetic thing. You go everywhere. I could tie it to the dogs, whatever. So yeah, it's going to be some fun times. Anyways, so we're going to do Rule 0 after this. I'm going to be there, but I'm going to be a little bit late, which I hope they don't mind. I think Paul's hosting it. Let me double check. Oh, good. And we're talking about that chick with the 100 dicks. Oh, how wonderful is that? Dude. Oh, I love Rule 0. And I love the guys, but every now and then with our topics, I just have to give my head a shake. I'm like, fuck us, man. What the hell are we doing? It's like remember when it was Looks, Money, Game and we had like 7 episodes of that, and by like 6 and 7, we're all like, Those always make me chuckle. Anyways, that's it. Let's make fun of Stedman. Let's get the fuck out of here. Enjoy your lunch.
I love the way girls smell. I love how they always make sure, by and large, they shower, and they just have an amazing smell to them in general.
I might bring that one with me. All right, cheers, boys.
'79T 2458 Learning Corp. Little Red Riding Hood. Take 1.